Hello everyone, my name is Felicitas from Sacred Wellness Grove, and I will give a presentation today about stress reduction within a Chinese philosophy model. And I also would like to remind you, to get the credits for Wellness Part 2, you will need to watch the video in its entirety and then put your name in the comment section so we know that you have watched it. That would be great. Thank you so much for doing that. So I will start the presentation now with this symbol. So I'm sure that you have all seen the yin and yang symbol. So when I was a teenager, everyone had, or a lot of people had this as a pendant, but I had no idea what this symbol actually meant. And if you Google this symbol, sometimes what comes up, which is really awkward, it's come bad and good, evil and good and all of that. You can forget about that. But what it is that the white side stands for the yang energy, that's Y-A-N-G, and that is the energy that is active, willful, individualistic. So it's a very forceful, willful, active, engaged energy. It's also sometimes connected with the masculine energy. The yin energy, which is the black one, is connected to the quiet, receptive, more wholesome kind of, a holistic rather, view. So what happens is that in the Chinese philosophy, in the sort of ancient Chinese philosophy of the Tao Te Ching, this symbol was representative of the two main forces, which basically is the original force of the universe. So the yin and the yang together bring in life. So what happens is that probably we in this time and age, we mostly live in this side, which is the yang energy. So our culture is very much about being productive, being busy, doing a lot of things, being in movement and so forth. And this is really important. These sides are equally important, so there's not one that is better than the other. And as you can see, there's a black dot in the white and a white dot in the black, so they always are intermingled. So there is no yin without yang and no yang without yin. But we can be very much on the yang side, and when we are on the yang side, we may have difficulties accessing the yin side. So I have here some description how we are in the healthy yang state. So when you are in your workday and you're active, you're focused, you're productive, you're in the flow, you get a lot of things done, you're going for it, you are in the healthy yang state. So that's a really good state to be in. So whenever you want to get something done, whether it's cleaning the house or getting our work done, we have to be active, focused and productive, right? So what happens is that when we are in the healthy yin state is when we are embodied. What does embodied mean? When we are really present to our sensations, to our body, we are present, and present without judgment. So our mind is in a state of repose. So sometimes when we are in a meditation state or when we are relaxing, we are in this place of openness, receptive and connected. So picture yourself that after your work day you're going for a walk and you sit on a bench and you're just taking the landscape in. You're taking a few deep breaths, you know that your work day is over and that you can now focus on just letting go. So that is the healthy yin state. So what happens though is that because our culture, and when I say our culture, probably at this point it's the whole world, but I would say the Western culture, we probably spend more time in one of the unbalanced states. So The unbalanced yang state, which means when we have too much yang energy, is when we get aggressive, agitated, and shut down. So let's imagine that you're at your work and you have a whole lot of work that still has to be done. You're really stressed out about it, you have some deadlines. So rather than being focused, productive, and engaged, you get actually aggressive. So if somebody comes into your room or into your desk and says, oh, could you please do this? You're like, leave me alone. I got a lot of things to do. So there is a sense of agitation, and it's also shutting down. You cannot really deal with anything else other than what's going on. So that's then the unbalanced yang state. So in the same way, we also have an unbalanced yin state. So let's say that you had a really tough day at work, you were doing a lot of things, you felt totally over the edge. You go home, you get home, you turn on the television, you put your legs up, and you have a beer. Nothing wrong with that. But so that is about, I'm just gonna zone out, I'm gonna distract myself, I'm gonna numb myself, I'm gonna have a couple of beers, and I'm gonna disconnect from my emotions and my sensations. I'm kind of zoning out. So these are two states that we may be in a couple of times a day. So it's not that we are, as people, as personality, unhealthy yang or unhealthy yin, but we go through these states maybe even within half an hour. So let's say that you wake up in the morning and you actually have the day off. So you kind of relax, you take it easy, but then the phone rings and there's an emergency at work and you have to rush out of the door. So suddenly, from being in a balanced yin state, relaxed, you get into an unbalanced yang state. And you get like, oh my God, I can't believe this. You get aggressive and really impatient. You rush to work. And then what happens is that your coworker says, oh, we were able to solve everything. Don't worry about it. You can go back home. So suddenly you're back into that relaxed yin state. And then you go back home, but because this was already so stressful, you say, okay, I'm done with this whole thing. I'm just gonna now spend an hour watching my favorite TV show and zone out. You're kind of back into the unbalanced yin state. So this is something that we're moving through within our day. So what happens though, is that when you have some control over what state you're in, you can actually do certain exercises so that you can be either in the healthy yang state or in the healthy yin state. So when I teach this class, a lot of times people tell me, you know what, most of my life I'm going through an unbalanced yang to an unbalanced yin. I don't spend a lot of time in the healthy yin and in the healthy yang state. So here again is the healthy yang state when we're active, focused, and productive, and the healthy yin state when we're embodied, present, open, receptive, and connected. So I would guess that probably you value these qualities more. Why is that? Because in our culture we put a lot of emphasis of getting things done. So a lot of people feel a sense of accomplishment and success when they have done all the items on their list that they have for that day. And I totally get that. I feel very accomplished too when I get everything done. However, we don't put a lot of emphasis on saying, I also was able to really be present. To be present to what was important to me. So that could be something like maybe you have a teenager at home and you come home and you're like, okay, leave me alone, I gotta go. And so, but if you have a teenager, you know that probably your teenager is going to leave home in a couple of years. And in this moment you may think, oh, that's great. But also you may want to remember that you want to be present to that person that you love and treasure. So if you can be in that healthy yin state and just say, okay, let's sit down for a moment and just, how was your day? And really embody that sense of being relaxed, of giving attention to what is important to you. Because in our culture now we are so distracted through all the gadgets that we have, a lot of times we are not able to be present to the things and the people that are important to us. We rush from one place to another, and we are not really giving the attention that we would like to ourselves and to the people and the situations that are important to us. So I would dare saying that the healthy yin state is actually a state that is in extinction. I hope I said that right. So the same way that we have species, animal species that are not able to live in the right environment more because there's too much heat or too much cold, the healthy yin state is endangered because we have so many distractions that are pulling us away from being present to our body, to our sensations, to who is in front of us. So I would like to ask you, as you're watching this video, to think about the last 5 hours. And I know that at the moment we're still in pandemic times, so maybe you have not had a lot of conversations with people in your office. But how many times can you think back about having a conversation with somebody and in your mind already thinking about the thing that you have to do next? You're kind of like, but we're really not present to that person. So when I think back, I know that sometimes that's exactly what I do. So, and then afterwards I think, why am I doing that? Because I would get so much more out of this moment if I would pay attention to the coworker, to my spouse, to my son, or whoever it may be, if I would actually stop, be open, receptive, and connected. So when you have a practice and when you have an intention, you can remind yourself when you want to go into what state. So now that we have sort of determined these different states, the healthy yin state, the healthy yang state, the unbalanced yin state, the unbalanced yang state, you kind of get a sense, oh, I'm getting into the unhealthy yang state. When you maybe your heart rate goes up or you start to get really angry about something. So in that moment when you notice, oh, you know what, I'm getting a little bit out of the healthy yang state and I'm getting into the unbalanced yang state, to stop, to just notice, and then take 3 deep breaths. So when we breathe deeply, our nervous system relaxes. And believe it or not, just taking 3 breaths does make a difference. So on an energetic and physical way, we change the chemistry of that moment. But you can also do something on a mental level. So the mental level is about asking yourself, what is important for me? So when you feel that you're getting into this unbalanced yang state, you may say things that you later regret, or you may do things that are not that productive. And so when you align with an intention that you feel this is important to me, and it could be as simple as, today I just want to make sure that I'm as kind as possible to the people around me. That can be all. So then when you come back to your intention, you take 3 breaths. You may not immediately come into the healthy yin state, which is to to be embodied, present, open, receptive, but you have made some steps to get to this state. And believe it or not, and I'm sure you believe it because we all have that experience, when we are in a conflict situation, when we are in a confrontational situation, or when we're simply in a stressful situation for ourselves, when that chemistry changes and when we can take a few breaths, we probably will be able to make better decisions, to steer the situation into a direction that is helpful rather than possibly destructive. So the same way, if your only way of relaxation is to become numb, distracted, and disconnected. So if every time that I'm done with work, I just kind of like shut down, we are not able to allow our body and our mind to rejuvenate. So what I would like to suggest to you, to find something that you really enjoy, that does not involve a gadget, that does not involve alcohol, but that simply involves something that brings you in that state. Embodied, present, open, receptive, connected. This may be something like taking a walk. So for me, taking a walk in nature, immediately after 10 steps, I start to feel that state. It can be taking a bath. It can be playing music if you're a musician. It can be having a really wonderful cup of tea and just letting go of the phone and just sitting and looking out the window. So find some ways that before you go maybe and have a beer or watch your television show, which there's nothing wrong with that, but take a moment to bring yourself to that healthy yin state where your body can relax. As you know, in this various video wellness courses, you have a lot of different options. So I know there's a lot of great other colleagues that have done programs about yoga and other things. And I have done one on relaxation, so you can do a relaxation exercise. If you like to meditate, you can do a meditation exercise. So or you can go out running. So some people get really in this state by running. So it doesn't necessarily have to be being still. So I would like to invite you to just reflect, what states do I usually spend most time in during a day? And how can I move from the unbalanced states into the healthy states? And so that we are more in this spectrum of the yin and yang context. And balance, as we probably all know at this point in our lives, is not something that is static. It's not something we achieve. I'm balanced, okay, that's great, that's it. We always have to kind of adjust to the situations to create some kind of balance. And some days are going to be totally off. But if you keep that in mind, if you keep this symbol in mind, you can just say, where do I want to be? Do I want to be way out there in an unbalanced state? Or can I be somewhere in the middle, where I can be both active, both engaged, and quiet, receptive, restorative practices at the end of the day or in between your work commitments. So this is a little bit a model for you to have it as a reference point so that you can gauge yourself trying to shift a little bit the states that you are in throughout your workday and throughout your evening and your weekends. So thank you so much for listening, and if you have any questions, please put them in the comment box or the chat box rather, and that's it. So good luck to you.